So I guess the thing that I was everything we just spoke about
before the show,
before we started hitting record, was exactly why I thought you were a dude that I want to talk to.
Well, thank you.
So we'll get to all that stuff, and I think about being wanting to help people and everything. Mm-hmm. The thing that I've really grabbed from you, from just perusing through your work and your music, your website, everything, is I am so I love it how grateful you are.
Well,
I think that is a beautiful thing. So where'd that come from? And
that word gratefulness or grateful has become commercialized from everybody from Oprah Winfrey up and down. But when you have a situation where you realize that's the only thing that can brighten the day and brighten others, it becomes part of you. I started with little things like the Grateful Rock. Have you ever heard about the Grateful Rock?
Nope.
Okay, so in 1977, first of all, hi to all the listeners. 1973 to 77, I was a student at Berklee College of Music, where I thankfully got a degree in composition. And I was interested in transcendental meditation. I think a lot of us, you're younger than I am, but you know, the Beatles and others who brought this Maharishi Mahesh Yogi to our attention, we became interested. You know, of course, musicians did. You see George Harrison playing, everybody, it's the way of the world, right? And there was a guy in my apartment building who was a master teacher, and the way the Transcendental Meditation Foundation, or whatever they're called, worked it is that you had to go through a program, like any other thing like this, where they taught you what meditation was and what its benefits were. And then they had rituals, which was you were on the lotus plant and you did this and you did that. And I said, look, you know, I'm a full-time student, and also I was working every night. I mean, I was working. I've been very grateful and very lucky, you know, be working since I'm 12 years old at music. So I just like to work, you know. I said, is there any way you could teach me how to meditate without me going to the school and paying $400 for the course and the rest of it? He said, yeah, if you give me guitar lessons in exchange. So we began that day, and within a week or so, I had my mantra and I did this. And he taught me about the Grateful Rock, which was a very simple thing. It's basically an anchor. You find a rock in your driveway, on the beach, wherever, and you hold it, and you put all your everything that you're grateful for into that rock. But they have to be small. They don't have to be, but the way I was shown, they need to be the small, mundane things that we generally don't think about, right? So I said, well, what does that mean? You know, and I really didn't understand, because I was already wanting a Ferrari, and you know, I was already into being a rock star before I graduated. He said, well, did you brush your teeth today? I said, yeah. He said, you know, there are people that have no teeth. I mean, he started with this stuff that was so very small and obvious, but I didn't know. I didn't think that way, you know.
Right.
And be grateful for your teeth. And then be grateful you can breathe. And be grateful that the sun is out. And he said, before you know it, I remember him saying, he asked me if I drank coffee, and I didn't at the time. He said, you know, this is way stronger than coffee. He says, by the time you put all these little gratefulness things into the rock, you will be flying, ready for the day, ready to help others. So I'd put that into the rock, and I'd hold it, and every time during the day, take the rock and put it into my pocket, and in the evening, I put it on top of my dresser. And that thing was like a fireball. I still use it, by the way. This is 40, 50 years later already. 40 years later.
Exact same rock.
Different rock. No,
okay.
I don't have that rock anymore.
Okay.
But it's the energy, and in a lot of meditations, it's about the anchor, how you do that. And so anytime you need that extra energy or to feel grateful, anytime you can just pull that rock out of your pocket, and all of those feelings come back. That's what they call an anchor in meditation. Unfortunately, my mother had a bad blood transfusion in the days when they didn't check blood. So she had, like many people, a gallbladder operation. And Mount Sinai Hospital in New York, one of the biggest,
Sure.
they gave her bad blood, and she had lost an awful lot of blood. So this would be like these days if someone didn't check the blood and unfortunately gave you AIDS or something.
Right.
So what happened is she was not a drinker. She got a form of cirrhosis of the liver, a terminal illness, by the time I was 2 years old. And she was told she would be dead in a couple of months because she wasn't passing bile, which poisons you, of course. Anyway, long story short, she lived until I was 14. And she woke up every day grateful. And she got up. I mean, it's a great example of this. My father, which I'll share with you, I sent you a couple of pieces of music. I'm going to share a song called Welcome Son with you.
Okay.
My father talks about in a song that he says, when I wake up in the morning and I spend the morning yawning, I say, welcome, son. And the end of the song is, because I can love and live every day is my, I forgot the lyric right now, but it's all about how grateful he is. Meanwhile, we spent every penny we owned. Blue Shield cut us off because my mother's care was more than $1 million. My father, I don't, to Frank, I don't really know how he did it. I know I got my Les Paul with him dropping his car in the Hudson River for the insurance. But so that's where the grateful thing happened. He no matter what, he was grateful that she lived another day, and he grateful that this happened, and grateful that happened. So I think that was my thing. The other thing is maybe a bit selfish. I find that when you're grateful, you have a better life. You receive more. It's a weird thing, but the more grateful I am to someone else or to a situation, my life is somehow benefited. I'm not sure exactly how it works, but I can tell you the opposite. When I've met people who are not grateful, who take things for granted or don't care about others, their life sucks.
Yep.
Generally, it's like a cycle, it's or better yet, a circle. They're not happy, they don't care about other people, so they get nothing, so it makes them unhappy, and the circle keeps going.
And I just find it interesting how many people they get a taste of it, but yet they just can't embrace it. You know what I mean? They get it, they can see it happening, but it's like, but wait a minute, I'm still not getting enough, or whatever their struggle is, and it's so funny how it's so true. I mean, it's so Beatlesy, right? To say, the love you, the love you get is equal to the love you give. I mean, it's so true, and it's so.
They nailed it.
I guess when you're younger, you don't see far enough. I don't know what it is, but
you don't. And I have a book called "Hear the Silence," which I was in the earthquake in California, and the building only a block away killed two of my friends. The building collapsed, and it's a long story if you ever want to get into it. But the lessons that brought me back from a severe case of PTSD, which almost created me being homeless and some other stuff, was the journey of being grateful and learning lessons. If you don't mind, I'll tell you a little story there.
I want to hear that. Can I jump in just for a sec? So when something that, I guess, did you lose gratefulness, and that's why all that kind of bottoming out happened?
Well, in this case, no, because this particular situation was due to PTSD. I had been in what they used to call Yugoslavia, and I was playing with the band called Manhattan Transfer.
Sure.
I was with them for 10 years, and this is crazy because I'm traveling so much. I heard a lot of noise over the hotel, and it turns out that they were starting to bomb the area, and we were told that we needed to get on the next plane and get back to America. We had already performed in both Zagreb and someplace else there in Yugoslavia.
Wow.
And so we were hanging, And it was scary as hell, man. When I hear about this, but so the flight from Yugoslavia was whatever it is, 15, 16 hours. We had been up all day. Nobody told anybody anything. I end up at LAX, Los Angeles Airport, go back to my house. I can't sleep. And I'm sitting there, and I actually called a friend in Canada, and suddenly the room began to shake. I often have I have a stand down in the studio, but all the 16 or whatever guitars up here, they all fell off the wall. The chandelier blew off the ceiling, crashing into the walls. My dog almost went out the balcony. It was the most traumatic freaking thing I've ever known. And when the shaking stopped, somehow I wasn't me anymore. I tell this story. I was on an interview on CBS television here, and I remember what I said to her, which was, it's like they took me out of me. I was an empty shell, and I don't know what happened, but I do know for the next 4 days, I didn't sleep. I was in the hatchback of a Mustang with my dog. The firemen, now remember, I've been on TV an awful lot during this period, but Bryan Adams and records and TV, A Solid Gold and Midnight Express and Don Kirshner's rock concert, on and on and on. And here the firemen took me out in my bikini underwear in the middle of Los Angeles street. My whole thing got shot. So 4 days later, when they allowed us back into our apartments, Frank, I didn't care about anything. I didn't care about eating. I didn't care about, if I had to go to the bathroom, although I didn't, but my thought said, just crap in your pants. I mean, I didn't care about anything except one thing, and that was my dog, Bubbles. And I would feed her, I would walk her, I would kiss her and hug her, and the rest of the time, for 6 months, I spent in bed. And I had gigs, right? I had gigs. And one time the LAPD, Los Angeles Police Department, showed up and knocked down the door. They thought I died, right? Because I had a gig at a country club as the band leader, sold to these wedding people, and I told the police, I'm not going. And then I got a call from the contractor. He said, what do you mean you're not going?
Wow.
We sold them a $2,000 wedding. They want you. You're the MC. You're the band leader. And I remember I said, wish them luck. And he said, well, I'm gonna sue you. I said, go ahead. That's how with the brain just went somewhere else. So when, I don't know how much you know about stuff, but I was a guitarist on Jerry Seinfeld's show for all 8 years that it was on, Sound of Kramer. And Jerry Seinfeld's composer, where I was making most of my living at that point, the 8 different sitcoms, he told me he was going to fire me if I didn't get help. Without making your whole interview about this situation, I had my car repossessed. I had pawned, I don't remember exactly, I think it was 19 guitars and lost them. People around me, I was very thin. They thought I was on drugs now. I wasn't. I couldn't afford a pizza, And so in Los Angeles, when you're thin and you have no money, you're doing something wrong, right? And I don't blame anybody for thinking that. But that wasn't. So as soon as it was like a bad thing. So within a year, nobody wanted to hire me. So when this happened, Jonathan Wolff, the Seinfeld composer, said, look, I love you. He said, but something is very wrong. He said, so I want to get you a psychiatrist. I know you don't have any money. So I and maybe Jerry Seinfeld, we're going to pay. We're going to pay for the best psychiatrist there is in the world. So they got me to the head of the mental health of California. His name is Dr. Richard Elpers. He worked out of UCLA, and we began the therapy. And I'm here to tell you, as the most grateful person on this earth, that they saved my life. And when I questioned why this stuff happened to me, right? After a life of just getting just about everything I want.
Yeah.
Or need, maybe. The answer was, this happened to me so I could help others. That's the only answer I got. And that's where I sit right now, Frank.
It's a good answer.
I mean, I don't know how the answer came to me, but and so I've dedicated my life. You know, I'm still a person who wants things, but the other people come first. The audience comes first. The fans come first. I'm one of the, you know, you and I were talking before the interview about some people not embracing social media. And social media has not only been a place to feed my career, some friendships, some validation, but I also have a little business promoting others on there. Mm-hmm. You know, we charge nearly $2,000 less than our competitors because if the objective is to help somebody, I'm not going to rape them.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I'm also not going to be buying any house in Beverly Hills anytime soon.
Give it a couple of years. Did you feel when you were in that place that something had abandoned you besides, I don't know if it's the gods of the world or God or the world or whatever, because, you know, that, I mean, that's some pretty deep stuff there, because you're in, as you say, you're just gotten whatever off the road with Manhattan Transfer or Bryan Adams. You had all that, I'll say, success. Now you're doing guitar work for the Seinfeld show, which I don't know is gargantuously gigantic. And
for that world, yeah.
Yeah, and you're feeling like, I don't know, are you feeling why me? Are you just, I mean, do you feel like something left you per se? I mean, how does that?
Yeah, I think you nailed it in some ways. For my whole life, people said you need to learn or have the blues to know what being happy is. And I fought that. And by the way, I still don't think that you need to hit bottom to be happy, you know, because we had enough tragedy. If you call losing your mother at 14 tragedy, I believe it's not great. My father died on my birthday, but I don't think that's, you know, that's a thing. So did I think God or the universe left me? No, actually the opposite. I think that the universe connected with me.
Wow.
Then. I mean, how would I know? In the book, I talk about this guy, Chris Haneke, and I want to relate this to you. So Chris Haneke was a guy, I lived in an apartment building that was at one time a condominium. And it was a nice place. Every room had a balcony, and it was very nice. The place I had the earthquake, actually. So the manager, the landlord, was a deacon at a church called Grace Church, which is a really big Catholic church, a Christian church, I don't know, Christian church in Los Angeles. They're very popular. They bring in famous musicians as ringers in their services. I remember Christopher Parkening, one of the most famous classical guitarists, came often. Stevie Wonder, all kinds of people. You know, it's L.A. after all, right? So what he did was he took some of the members of his church who were handicapped or disabled in some way and gave them an apartment. I didn't know the monetary arrangement, but they were all, of course, on the bottom floor, on the bottom level. And so you have the bottom level of the place. You have all of our mailboxes on the wall. You take your key and you open your mail. And next to it was his office, the manager's office. So every day, when I'd go down, I knew when the mail came, Chris would be there in his wheelchair. Now, about Chris. Chris Haneke was a very, very intelligent person, very nice man, but he got in a very bad car accident. And they hit him in such a way that it severed something on his spinal cord and gave him the equal or a version of cerebral palsy. This was a guy who was completely abled, as we would see, and he lost the ability to speak and to walk. So he was in a wheelchair, and he had a sign. I'm giving away most of the chapter, but that's okay because I think it's important you hear this. He had a sign on his wheelchair that was obviously made for him, and it said, "Hi, my name is Chris. I am intelligent. I can understand you. Please speak to me normally, and I will respond by using my pointer." So he had a pointer on a cap, and all the letters would be on this board on the other side of the board. And he'd point, one at a time. You'd have to read what he's trying to say, right? You could talk to him about Socrates, and he didn't lose any of his intelligence, right? So one day, I am completely in trouble. I've got no job. My car is repossessed. I am skinny and I'm unshowered. I have no money. I've pawned my guitar. I mean, everything you could think of except actually being completely homeless yet. I got into this place that you see people who are in trouble, alcoholics, drug addicts, I got into that place where I needed to survive, right? I needed a telephone. Now, this is how bad. I went from, I was not a rich man, but I had, for a guitar player to have $160,000, $170,000 in checking is respectable, And I went from that within 6 months to not being able to afford a slice of pizza, right? So after the earthquake, I had the neighbor below me, run a cable, his AC cable, to his outlet, a yellow freaking cable, like you plug in your edger, your lawnmower stuff, and it went into my apartment because he felt so bad that I didn't have electricity. So I plugged in my computer and my lamp, right? I just gave up a $300,000 house before this, right? So now I've got a cable from the neighbor. Every time I walk by my apartment, I can see that cable's there, reminding me over and over and over that my life is about finished, right? That I'm done for, that I'm going to be homeless, that I'm useless, everything you could ever think of. And so, as I was saying, when you are in trouble, you do things. I'm not a guy who could ever steal, but I did a couple of bad things. I went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You know that place?
Sure. Not too far from me.
Well, I went in there, was invited, and flown there. And I had to play as well for an artist. I don't want to say who it was right now, but there was a display of Elvis Presley's guitar, and then the union contracts for his musicians for the gigs, pasted in the display. So I ran down and I asked the security guard if he had paper and a pencil, and I took that from him, which he was kind enough to give me, and I wrote down the social security numbers for his musicians, knowing that most of them were dead, because I needed to get a phone. Now, strangely, when I tried that trick with Pacific Bell, which is a California phone service, they found out that it was illegal, that I was giving a fake social security number. So that didn't work. So what I did was, instead, I gave the social security number of my first wife. Now, I was still friendly with her, so I didn't think this was going to be a big deal. It was like, hey, I needed a phone, so I used your social security number. I'm not using your checking account, just your number. Anyway, she went berserk. Berserk, man. She got on the phone and she said, you need to learn to help yourself, and you're immature, and things that she didn't tell me. Our divorce was completely friendly. I was on the road 10 months out of the year. She wasn't getting enough loving care, so she said, I love you. Here's the equity from the house. I'm going back to New York. I was living in L.A. Completely friendly. Not an angry word. Right. And so she went on me like I'd never heard her. I don't think we ever had an argument that was even close to this. Ripping me apart. So I ran downstairs. I was so angry. I am very not a guy who, I'm not a person who gets angry easily. And I'm surely not physically angry. And I took my fist and I punched the wall. My fist was bleeding, right? Didn't do anything. And I come down, and there's Chris Haneke. And Chris is in his wheelchair. And I don't know if I'm going to cry, if I'm, what it is, but every emotion of being useless and broken was who I was. I don't want to get too upset here. I look at Chris, and he says, there's a sound that you'll hear people that can't speak, but he could move his vocal cords. So it's like, and I said, I don't have time. Oh, I used to take him for walks. I used to walk him around. It's all boys beautiful L.A. I'd push his wheelchair around. I'd just take him out, So I thought he wanted me to take him out to adventure. I said, Chris, man, I'm sorry. I'm not in the mood. I can't go out with you now. I can't take you out right now. So he said, like really upset. I said, is something wrong? You need your mail? I'll go get you your mail. Give me your key, which it sat by his right leg. So I picked up his key, and he wouldn't stop, Frank. It was like something was really wrong. Something was on fire. You asked me a little while ago about God or godlike or the universe. So I said, what is it? I said, I just talked to my effing ex-wife, and my life sucks, and blah, 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 blah. I'm just bantering in the freaking lobby of the building. And he pushes like this. He says, he wanted to go to the front door. And I was still pissed because I thought he was going to push me to take him on this adventure around Granada Hills, California, because that's what he wanted, and I was helping him. And he, wow, man. He pointed with his head towards the sign, the thing with all the letters on it, right? So I'm getting upset, but it's good that I do. So I take the thing off, and I'm still kind of angry, and I hold the thing in front of him. I put the cap on his head with the pointer, and he starts pointing to the letters. And he spelled, "Isn't this the most beautiful day?" And not all the letters were there, but it was ISTTE, the most beautiful. And that was my moment. Because I sat there and I said, he can't talk. He can't eat without help. He can't walk. He can't, and he's way, way, way smarter than I am. And he's grateful. He's grateful for this beautiful day that it was.
For some reason, he knew what you needed at that moment. Must be, he knew you needed something, a simple reminder.
Simple reminder, and you know what? That when I sat down to write the book, and when I talk to other people, I tell them we all see things every day, right? We'll see someone walking that's limping, or this person has a hearing aid, or whatever it is that we think we're superior to, or more fortunate because of. That person doesn't walk so great. I do. That person's skinny. I'm not. Whatever it is. But these things don't stick with us. The gratefulness doesn't stick with us. It's like real passing. It just kind of makes the day. Oh, I'm lucky I didn't hit that car. All little tiny things. But that day, and I think that people ask me all the time, why do you think you were successful in music? And I can't really give that answer. But in terms of what you asked, right? Why am I grateful? Because I will never, ever, ever, ever forget that moment with Chris. And it is not a passing reminder. It's a way to live reminder. And in the rest of my book, every chapter, I my goal was to show something. It's not a biography in any way, but to reach out to other people to give an example of how I was saved, or that's a big word, saved, but how I was given this enormous, wonderful, amazing, incredible life. And so each chapter I said, okay, how do I demonstrate this, you know? So aside from the fact that I've been very fortunate in music, my greatest accomplishment is helping others.
So he was such an important part of your life. When did you understand that music could be as healing and, I guess I'll say medicinal, but something so powerful that it would make a difference not only in your life, but also helping others too? Because I guess for me, a listener mostly is the guy who goes, certain songs just help me through a part of my life. Day, second, week, month.
Yes.
You know? And I just wonder, how did it... So if music helps save you to make a living, that's a beautiful thing.
Yes.
But when did you recognize it to be so much more than just saving you? That you actually was saving you, again, big word, right? But you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's a big word, but you know, I don't know if we should be scared of using it. I mean, it's weird when I teach at a great music college. I'm sure you've heard of the school Juilliard, and Juilliard has a satellite school here where I live. It was built in 1892, called Snow College, and it's a wonderful place. But one of the things that I think that we've been most successful between student and me is I tell them, where other teachers tell them, you need to practice, you know. You need to practice your scales. You need to practice music theory. You need to practice reading music and all this stuff to get their skills so they can make a living. I chose to tell them, you need to become friends with your guitar. And so that's a different way. And that was, by the way, I'm not the inventor of that thought. It was my first guitar teacher, Joe Breeze, who was the guitarist on the Ed Sullivan Show. And he told me, you need to become friends with the guitar. And as a young kid, he said, well, what is it about your friends that you like? You know, I said, well, I have fun with him, and we like to do this together, and he's got a nice swimming pool, you know, whatever. He said, you need to look at your instrument that way. It's not just these notes you're reading on the music. It's about knowing that, right? So I developed a relationship with the instrument. And this starts to sound a little esoteric, but I've been successful showing other people how to do this as well. And you'll read this, you'll say, you know, you've done great interviews for a long time, and you know, you've interviewed all these big stars, and I'm sure I haven't heard all your interviews, but I'm sure they've talked about a favorite guitar or a favorite instrument, or you know, a favorite venue to play. You form a relationship, right? So I have a relationship with music, and to me, there's this palette of notes. Right? And how you arrange that palette, whether you use yellow and green or yellow and red or yellow and orange or a B note and an A note, is how you can create help someone to be happy, help someone to enjoy their day, help someone to cry if they need to, you know. And in that way, I think that's the best way I can explain that I think music is magical. I mean, it's completely magical. And, you know, and especially in a world that we live in now, with everybody having an opinion about everything, you know, and being able to broadcast that opinion. Before, it was just, you know, the people on TV talk to us, right? The people on radio talk to us.
Right.
You know, we didn't even have talk shows when I grew up, you know. And now you can't go anywhere on the internet because nobody sells anything on the internet unless people are involved in some way. That's the whole thing about the internet. That's all about Google and all about Facebook and all about everything else, including any browser you open up. You open up Comcast, you open up AOL, you open up Verizon, you open up any company, and their first page, there's something on that page to get you to buy something.
Right.
Now, I don't mean an ad. They'll ask, what is your opinion of the impeachment thing? They don't care. They only want to get you to the page so they can sell you something. You know, no company cares. So I care, you know.